All right, well, so let's get started. So the first swing we're going to look at is a breaking ball. It's a curve ball that Vlad is staying on and hitting to the opposite field. So when I do training at the lab, we have velocity machines. We set up those. We set up breaking balls, and players work through those. They usually get about 100 swings in each of those stations, during their sessions each night. And what I find a lot with young players is on curveballs, they swing and miss to the inside. They don't know how to stay on that pitch, is what you would think about, is how do you stay on that outside pitch? And so their timing is good, but their bat misses the ball by 3 inches because they're swinging to the pull side versus extending through the opposite field, which we need to do on pitches working away from us. So, as we go here with Vlad and we go through, we're looking at the front view here, we can see how he lets that ball get, you can see where that pitch is, right, working away from him. And you can see how his barrel is extending out towards kind of the pitcher's mound, right? He's going to extend through that to hit that ball, out of the park. So it's really important. It would have been really easy for him to keep rotating and not use his extension to get to that pitch. And if we look at it from the side now, okay, so now we'll get a side view and you'll see this pitch working away. You can see how quiet his hands are. So many people want, load your hands back, walk away from your hands. I mean, I've been hearing that since I was, I used to hear my dad talking about that all the time. He wasn't one that taught it, but that's what everybody was in love with. Walk away from your hands. Well, if you look at Vlad Guerrero here, as he's taking his stride, okay, his hands are, whatever that green line is, right? Is that 8 inches, away from his head as it goes through, right? So when we get to toe touch, that's the green line. You can see it might even be a wrong line there, but it might be like the exact same. Like there was no push. His hands are staying. He's got them preloaded before. Okay, so as he takes his stride, okay, and he cocks his hands, you can see as he's gliding forward, now his hands are pretty stationary. So this is where I see a lot of problems with kids. They're already starting to fold their back elbow underneath here. They're trying to reach back and straighten their front arm, and that's a real problem, okay? So again, once he gets to toe touch here, you can see just looks like everybody else we look at. He's balanced here. His head is a little bit behind center, okay? The knob is facing back here. His back armpit is still open. His front shoulder is really down, okay? And then as he goes through and we start to rotate, notice how that bat stays right next to his head, right next to his shoulder, even on a pitch that's away, okay? And then the best part about this is we talk about staying on pitches. Here's this breaking ball working down and away from him, right? Probably on a 9 or 10 degree downslope. Well, watch how see how his barrel gets to it probably about here, okay? But watch his extension. So he hits it there, okay? He definitely wasn't swinging up from there to there. He was probably swinging very level to the ground, 0 to 2 degrees up. That's what it looks like, yeah. But if you watch his barrel, even though the ball's shooting up like this, whoops, wrong line there. So here's the trajectory of the pitch, right? Shooting up that way. Look at where his barrel goes. See how his barrel stays through the pitch line, okay? So what happens if he was a little early? He may have been able to still get a piece of it out here. So you can see how long, that's what long through it means. It doesn't mean you're going long through the trajectory of the pitch. It means you're going, trajectory of the batted ball. You're going through the trajectory of that pitch going forward. And that is what he does so well, which is pretty awesome. He does. It is a low pitch. It's it's down and away, and he's staying through it. It's not easy. So let me pull up another swing here. So there's some good stuff we can learn from a lot of his swings. So just bear with me for 1 second. Then I got to redo that. All right, so we got to talk about lag again. because it wasn't recording on the screen. So my apologies there. So we were talking about, this bat using the left arm to pull through. Okay, so that lag position where the hand starts to pull forward and then dropping this barrel to the inside, that allows us to release the barrel out in front. So making sure that we don't use our top hand too early. And I shouldn't say you can keep the top hand in position, okay, so his right hand, but using, the lead arm early. This is why my guys do so many bottom hand drills, okay, because the first move when we land and rotate is all front side. Front leg, front knee, front hip, front oblique, front shoulder, and then front arm. We want that to kick in first. Okay, then once we get to there, now the power of the backside and the dominant side for most guys, especially him, he's a right-handed thrower, can come through. So setting up that lag early creates so much energy. It's the same as you're going to see a golfer get to that same position when they start to drop the knob through. Because when you drop the knob through and out in front, and for him towards right center, what does that do? That lags the bat behind the back shoulder. Okay, it doesn't drop the bat. Don't think that it drops the bat. It just keeps it up and behind him so that when he does rotate and get to here and then release his right hand, he's going to pick up a little bit extra bat speed. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Jimmy was talking about inward turn here. How much inward turn do we see with his lower body? He starts pretty closed, right? I mean, you can see, his shoulder line is already closed. His hip line is probably like that. So he's closed to start. His feet are kind of closed. So he's not going to have a huge move. His knee's already kind of in there. But as you watch him, and he does his little toe tap there, right? Kind of just have a small toe tap, and then he goes here. It's not a huge move. He definitely brings his hips in a little bit more when he's striding, but it's not as big as a lot of guys. Okay, everything he does is pretty minimal. He does everything correctly, but the inward turn's important. He has, maybe half of what most guys have. The front shoulder coming down, or loading the hands. He might have 20% because he just starts that way. We talked about Joe Morgan, okay? Guys like that they used to start really closed with their upper half, okay? And then some guys we talked about, in one of the previous episodes when my dad was talking, when he was working with Eric Karros for the Dodgers, he had to get him to counter rotate when he would stride. So when Karros would do this with his front foot, his chest was like, square. Okay, so instead of Vlad going like this, Karros would have been like this. So my dad had to get him into this position as he was striding forward. He had to have a big inward turn because he started so square and so open. Where if you looked at a guy like, I don't know, Reggie Smith or even Ken Griffey Jr., right? Ken Griffey Jr. started kind of like Vlad with his shoulders already turned and his body already coiled. So some of that, or I should say a lot of that is a personal preference. Yeah, for sure. So it is not affecting his swing. It's making it no, because it's already there. Now maybe he could have more power, if he was more trying to think of the best way to put it. I guess if he was more elastic, if he started and he had a bigger stretch and a bigger move, he would have more power, but it would add to risk. And if it adds to risk, why does he need to hit a ball any harder? Like he hits the ball plenty hard, right? So that's kind of the whole risk reward, where somebody we talked about Altuve earlier, who's a lot younger, Altuve he's got to have a bigger move because he's not as big of a guy. So, yeah, so it's all part of the kind of the same thing. So it would be the inward turn would happen during a stride. You can do it with a low leg kick or a high leg kick. Yes. Yeah. So we're going to go with this. So here's another Vlad Jr. swing on a breaking ball away. Okay, so a breaking ball, well, it was supposed to be away. It probably ended up a little bit away, but he was able to still get that thing out in front. So it was probably somewhat of a hanger, but how was he able to hit it out in front? Because he's super long through it. And what does super long through it mean? Look at his right arm here. Look at his barrel here. I'm sorry, look at his left arm here. And then look at his barrel. He hasn't flipped that thing over. Okay, so let's draw our lines again and have an idea of what is, what his through it looks like. So here's the ball here. And then, it's probably moving like that towards the catcher, 8 to 10 degrees. So where does his barrel get on plane? Gets on plane here. Not until about his front knee. Now you know why I like him, okay? Because this swing plays whether you're 220 pounds or whether you're 170 pounds. You can find barrels, okay? So now he can find barrel there. He can find barrel there. He can find barrel there. And then watch his right arm extend, and you could call this a push. I mean, a push is like the worst. It's not the worst, but people hate the push. They say, pushing bad. Don't push the barrel through. Well, I don't know what that's called if it's not a push with the right hand. Okay? Like, I really don't know what that's called. All the people that are about just turn the barrel, right? Just kind of, get it down and then turn the heck out of it. Like, they're missing this part of the swing. This, oh my gosh, my timing. And there's nothing wrong with what they're saying, but it minimizes your contact zone. Like, there's no way a player that turns it is going to be able to keep this pitch fair. Okay, they're going to hook that thing foul because this elbow is going to get caught back here. This elbow is going to still be at their rib cage. Their right arm will look like that. Their right hand will be there, and then the barrel will be on that angle. And when the barrel's on that angle, that ball goes foul. Okay, so this is just a super move. And then if we look at, where it starts, notice where his hands are. This is our short approach position we've talked to in all of our video breakdowns. Knob in front of the back elbow, right? Bat next to the shoulder, very compact. He's going to turn, and then here comes his hands. His hands are going to kick in, and he's going to stay through that ball. Now, by staying through it, he's able to hit the bottom, stay at the bottom half of it, because he's slightly under the pitch plane here, right? But you know how quickly it is to do this and swing up over this ball? That's what happens if you don't extend your right arm. So if you keep that right arm bent, you'll just come over the top of this and top it. But by extending his right hand, yeah, I don't think this pitch was that far away. I'm trying to watch the catcher here, where he is, but that pitch was pretty good pitch to hit, would be my guess. And you know what? This may not have been a breaking ball. It depends. I'm looking at the title of this swing, and it says curveball away, and that may have been the title of the first video that I did. So this may not have been a breaking ball away. It may have been just a fastball, middle in. It was definitely a good pitch to hit. But again, short to it means we get to a good short approach position here. A bad position here, his left arm would be straight and across his chest, and his bat would be out here. Okay, so that's what you see with kids. And then, so this would be where the knob is, and then the elbow on a bad position would still be in here under his rib cage. So that's what I see with amateur players about 80% of the time, players under 14, under 15. So this is a very short position. So to go from here, this is crucial. Like from here to your power V position, when you extend your arms, that's where consistency and barrels are found. Okay, you could do that with no legs. You could not swing with your legs and just do this with the upper body, and you would find barrels. Now, those barrels wouldn't go very far if you weren't rotating and using your legs and any kind of ground force, but you would absolutely be able to be a successful hitter. Okay, I mean, that's just kind of the way it is. That's where swing plane comes from here to here. Okay, so what players do from short approach to power V, and we spend a lot of time with our teaching with those moves and how to get a player to be consistent in those moves, because that's the biggest issue we see. Players don't get to those proper positions. They're not able to be short to it here, and they're not able to extend through it here based on something they did during their stride or loading their hands or something like that. So we want that short approach to Power V to be consistent. And I'm going to go ahead and stop that video there. So for those of you watching on YouTube, go ahead and zero back in with the podcast.